Next on the agenda is general business. General business item 6A, reconsider ordinance number 5453, amending chapter 6.32 of the Bremerton Municipal Code entitled Noise Levels, passed on August 3rd, 2022. Tonight we have Mayor Wheeler, City Attorney Fennell, and Assistant City Attorney Rhea.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hoover, and good evening, Council. I'll start off, and of course we have the legal department representatives to help guide and answer questions through the legal process and the part of this that's coming in front of you. So I'll just want to start off by saying on August 3rd, the City Council unanimously adopted updates to the city's noise regulations. And while this was an important step to take to ensure that the city has enforceable regulations relating to noise levels, the city's administration cannot support this ordinance in its current form. The proposed ordinance establishes a policy that says it seeks to, in quote, minimize the exposure of citizens to the physiological and psychological effects of excessive noise, and to protect and promote and preserve public health, safety, and welfare, unquote. And I believe strongly in this policy. I support the ordinance establishing a standard that if loud noises can be heard at a distance of more than 100 feet, that this should not be permitted during the night and early morning. And Council, just as a side note, please know that 100-foot proposal from me was me listening to prior council meetings and hearing a desire to increase that exemption from our current 50 feet. I felt that was a compromise that you would see it as such. Moving on, unfortunately, the adopted ordinance, now this is what you adopted unanimously, goes farther, providing an exemption for the city's commercial districts to exceed noise levels until 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays at an increased distance of 200 feet. This is not a minor adjustment to the city's standard practice of enforcing this code, which has been in place for at least 30 years, but instead represents the potential for a major change of character for businesses and residents who operate and live within or directly adjacent to all commercial zones throughout the city. A change of this magnitude reflects a new direction from the City Council that has not been communicated to the public. In effect, this ordinance has a great potential to move the burden of noise management from the originator to the neighboring businesses and residents. And the idea that a noise ordinance can be rolled back at any time is easier said than done. I will say from experience, it's much easier to move forward in small measured increments with a well thought out plan, a vision that has been articulated, and of course, community support than it is to roll back something that is not working. Once an investment has been made by the businesses and business practices have been established, it will be exponentially tougher as a rollback on established businesses could force closure. So, Council, I will turn this over to anybody from the legal department to if there's any input as far as the process, how we got to this point tonight.
I don't have anything to add. I'm here for questions, and I believe that's kind of Michael's position as well.
Okay, so there are two options in front of you for your consideration. It's obvious the one I'm requesting that you choose, and I'll turn it over to Council, either Council Vice President Chamberlain or Council President Goodnow.
Thank you. Well, is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this issue regarding the noise ordinance changes? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to council for a motion. Councilmember Coughlin.
Thank you, Vice President Chamberlain. I move to approve ordinance number 5453, amending chapter 6.32 of the Bremerton Municipal Code entitled quote, noise levels, unquote, that was previously passed by City Council on August 3rd, 2022, and subsequently vetoed by Mayor Wheeler.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. And we are open for discussion, council. So I'd like to go ahead and defer to Councilmember Coughlin first, as he made the motion.
Well, thank you, Vice President Chamberlain. Let me just start out saying I value having an effective noise ordinance. We've heard plenty from constituents who have issues with neighbors. I just wrote back to somebody this afternoon who had a neighbor using power tools past midnight. And I really also value all the exceptions that are included in the code, like marching bands and chimes, and me being able to use my power washer during the day, having fun. But Bremerton, also does have a rich tradition of live music. We're embarking on the multi-million-dollar project in Quincy Square, that's embracing that tradition. And so I really don't think, Bremerton is like Footloose. I thought that we as a council arrived at a really reasonable ordinance with a laundry list of reasonable exemptions, one of which was commercial music, being slightly louder from 3 to 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday evenings. But I don't take a veto lightly, especially when it was against the NF's decision. So I wanted to do a little sanity check and just kind of review the timeline for folks of how this all started. So going back to November 2019, there's a Kip's Sun article that detailed a lawsuit involving Brother Don's and some nearby residents, and that it was already on council's goals and agenda to review the noise ordinance back there at the end of 2019. February 2020, parts of our noise ordinance were ruled unconstitutional for vague language. There was a comment by council that the city was going to address, as soon as possible. Of course, that was February 2020. So then the pandemic hit, which put everything on hold for quite a while. But it came back in 2021. So on April 14th, 2021, there was a study session on a new proposed ordinance. On May 5th, there was a public hearing, no vote, just a public hearing. 5 people spoke up. On May 19th, 2021, there was more public comment received. But ultimately, council voted down 5-2 that noise ordinance. And that had the 100-foot rule in it. It wasn't 50. It was a proposed 100-foot rule. There was obviously some issues we've talked about, what's audible versus decibel readers. But by the Kitsap Sun article, both council members Younger and Goodnow back then suggested relaxing noise regulations on the weekends for business. So almost exactly a full year went by to 2022 when it came back before us as council. So the Public Safety Committee on May 5th met to discuss it. The 100-foot rule remained, just like 2021, with some other changes. On May 25th of this year, we had a study session briefing on the noise ordinance. Council had some concerns, but wanted more public input. So we decided to hold another public input, no vote meeting. June 1st, we had that meeting. We took public input and had discussion, and concerns remained about commercial music venues. On June 8th, we had another study session. There still was no proposal on the table to address live music in commercial areas. And so council ultimately, bumped it back to Public Safety Committee. The mayor said, quote, "Council, I think you're going to have to decide. It's going to be on you to determine the decibel levels will be and what days and hours of the week, and toss that out there." And the mayor also said, quote, "I need an ordinance. I need it soon." So it was urgent that we get something passed. So July 7th, the Public Safety Committee met to discuss the noise ordinance, along with fire, police, and legal and council members. They came up with the exemption for specifically just commercial music on Friday and Saturday from 3 to 11 with that 200-foot rule. It went back to the study session on June 27th. And my recollection is that legal staff were asked to make it clear the 200-foot rule for music was at council's request, not the administration, but there was no further elucidation why there were concerns about that 200 feet. August 3rd, almost at the end here, we got to general business. We got written comments specifically on the 200-foot rule. There was a letter in support from the community, and if I got it right, I believe the individual was one of the residents involved in the original, Brother Don lawsuit there, or who had issues with the noise ordinance originally, and they said they were happy with the exemption and they were glad that it was Friday and Saturday evenings only. The attorney for Brother Don's thought the distance should be even greater and that it should be every day of the week. Some folks would want it there, but it was reasonable. There were no objections by council, no comments by the mayor. It passed unanimously. And in the mayor's veto,
Coughlin? Okay,
yes.
I'm gonna give you 60 more seconds, but I think you're about to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you. So at the mayor's veto, I'm not saying any alternative proposal. It just suggested to go back to 100 feet or even 50 feet, which I didn't understand. It mentions affecting 1,000 properties from going to 100 and 200 feet, but that, it's an extreme example of assuming there's a commercial music venue on every linear foot of the commercial districts across the entire city. So I think it's, I'm sorry, extreme and not reasonable. So yeah, wrapping it up, I got to say, I don't think there's anything new or sudden about asking for a live music exemption. It's been out there for years. The mayor told council they have to come up with something. The public safety committee did. We've had a public hearing on the 200 feet. We got feedback. This is about a dozen public meetings in total on this issue. So I'm open to changing my mind on it. If anybody out there has a different argument or new data, I know it's not perfect, but I think it's quite reasonable. In the mayor's own words, we need a noise ordinance. We need it now. I'm happy to, vote yes, unless you change my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Coughlin. Councilmember Fry.
Yeah, Council Vice President, since I heard my name mentioned.
Point of order. Point of order.
Well, I just want to
Point of
make
order,
sure that
Council
I
Vice
get a
President.
chance at some point to.
Sorry, point of order. No question was asked of the mayor. This is not the mayor's meeting.
Well, I don't want to. This is an example of maybe the disconnect why the council.
Point of order, Vice President Chamberlain. Can you rule on the point of order?
So for today,
Okay.
Mayor Wheeler, I'm going to go ahead and ask Councilmember Fry to go ahead and speak, and then I'll give you an opportunity as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Vice President Chamberlain, and thank you, Council Member Coughlin, for reiterating that process, some of which I wasn't involved in because it preceded my appointment. All that being said, I was shocked with the mayor's veto. I didn't see it coming. I sit on the Public Safety Committee. I was there for these meetings at which this was discussed. And I know Vice President Chamberlain chairs that committee. She also, of course, remembers all this. But I want to say that I asked specifically with administration there, represented there. I had the police there. I had the fire there. I had the people there I needed. I asked, was there any pushback on this from those departments? And I will quote Lieutenant Elton, who I respect very much, and so I take him at his word. He said, and I quote, "Will enforce any ordinance the council passes." Now, when I heard that at first, I thought, that's a pretty political answer, but I'm going to lob it right back and say, thank you. Thank you for that input. Once again, I'm going to trust that. I heard no other pushback. We invested a lot of time and a lot of discussion in this. It was a unanimous vote by council. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Yeah, I'm supportive of just moving this baby forward unless somebody changes my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fry. Mayor Wheeler, can I give you 2 minutes of time to go ahead and reply as you requested to?
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, Council Vice President. And just so if we could, if I can stay off the clock just for a minute. The one thing is I want to separate this conversation from everything else we're working together on as a city. So just when we're done, I encourage us all, and I will follow my own advice to move on with everything else. We've got a lot of work ahead. I have a strong disagreement with this one. And so back on the clock, I was very vocal multiple times when the 200-foot started to arise and starting to get some traction. So, council, when I make a request for you to get something done so I can have an ordinance for the first time in 2.5 years, 200 feet's not what anybody would envision. Now, granted, that's what we have. I vetoed that after I told you multiple times I was not happy. And please know that Quincy Square, that's going to be a different venue. That will be probably a special event permit type operation to try to gauge where 200 feet is for what I consider to be the premier outdoor entertainment center in Kitsap County after $5.5 million investment. We're not going there. So that's going to be a different operation where I expect a special event where noise levels can be increased, which we do with all special events. Activities will be different and managed differently. So, and again, there's no problem with backing up, having more thoughtful conversations on things like Quincy Square and how that goes forward. And so thank you for letting me, and then Council Vice President, if you'll give me the chance, if other things come up, I would love to at least get a chance to say my side of it also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler. Good job on the timing, 2 minutes exactly. I'm going to let everybody go around though, because I think that it's important that for council to have a chance to discuss this issue again without being interrupted. So next up, I'm going to call on Quinn, who's Vice Chair of Public Safety. I'm sorry, Councilmember Dennehy.
No worries. Thank you, Vice President Chamberlain. Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for bringing these concerns and getting your veto kind of in front of us and letting us know your rationale. I guess the question that I'm having, and it is, it doesn't need to be directly replied to. It would be great to hear from other council members. But as I'm looking through the redlining, is the major part that you're vetoing, like if you were able to, I know it wasn't a line item veto, you vetoed the entire ordinance, but if you were to line item veto something, it's the 200 feet, not the exceptions for the 3 to 11 in District 2 and 3. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Councilor. I would put a red line right through 200 feet, and put 100 feet there. And then, if we were to start over, I would go back to 50 feet, which we've established a practice in the city that many feel comfortable with. And then the 100 would have been the exemption for those Friday and Saturday.
Got you. So let me follow up with that, because it is really good to get feedback from the administration. We don't have any policy wonks working for us. We're kind of sometimes, working it out based on advice and based on other jurisdictions that we're seeing. I would love to see data like this for like MFTE as well. Like, I hope that comes back. I would love to see like, hey, this is how many properties it could be affected. This is how many buildings could be affected. So that's just kind of a note for later. It was good to get feedback from your administration, but would you mind just like kind of taking us through your thought process of why the 200 feet seems excessive for you and what like resources or experts you relied on for that?
It's just right now, that's just measurement. So it was a very quick, the resources and expert only comes from my experience as a planning commissioner, designing and being part of the city council for 8 years, designing the comprehensive plan that you see in front of you, and understanding through my years of living in the city and experience that a commercial district is wide open for any venue that is allowed to operate in there. And once you start to remove a path of resistance to being a business and then maybe a successful, viable business, then you're apt to see that business come in. Now, when you remove let's say you increase a noise ordinance exemption from 50 to 200 feet, all of a sudden the investment that businesses used to have to make in sound dampening, management of relationships with your neighbors, all of a sudden that changes because now they are backed by the law to where they can actually have a new venue, which might not have, you've cleared a path with this one. I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong, but that's a change. That's a major, to me, that's a pretty big change with a vision behind it. And the public, as far as I understand, does not see or has not had that vision shared with them. So living in a densely packed city, walking these streets, knowing what 200 feet is, you start to realize that you're getting blocks and blocks away from a potential venue. And then I'm picturing the doorsteps. I'm picturing night shift workers. I'm picturing people, parents with children, school-age children. And so I'm picturing folks who finally found that one house where the landlord doesn't keep raising the rent, who have no other options but to put up with a new operation. So that's the thought process. That person will have, these are vulnerable. Some of them are vulnerable. In fact, I just named a lot of vulnerable people, and they don't have options. So I don't take these type of changes lightly. I wouldn't put myself or you through this if I wasn't representing those folks.
Sure. And final follow-up question, Mayor Wheeler, thanks a lot for that. And then I'll kick it off to my fellow councilors is, I think repeatedly you said that the vision wasn't shared with the public, short of the open public meetings at the public safety meeting at city council, where people are allowed to comment on ordinances that are coming up, and our charter and OPMA kind of set forth these rules to allow public comment and public engagement. Was there something missing that you felt? Because I feel like there's a critique of not including the public, and I'm just curious as to what you feel that could have been.
When you have a major, we do this a lot with zoning changes, comp plan updates. When you change a character, you're getting ready to change a character of a neighborhood, or if there's somebody's in, and then under some circumstances, something is zoned for, but it's going to have a major impact. It might be an industrial area or a kind of a commercial area that might, have a major impact on a neighbor. One of the strategies you use for that is you do a mailer. And so you pick a zone, and and in this case, it's a big mailer. But in my opinion, that's the magnitude of the change would have warranted a notification, a brief description of what the council wants to do, and an explanation of why. Now, if there's a vision, we envision something like Austin has, or something like New Orleans has for a music. Explain the vision and how their property might be impacted being within a 200-foot buffer, where they used to be at 50 feet. And that not only includes the maps I highlighted were the adjacent to the commercial. We couldn't even get into how much is inside of the commercial zones, existing businesses, existing residential. There's too many to even get into to try to calculate how that might be impacted. There's a lot. I mean, there's a whole bunch. And so that's one way. The other one is district meetings with a specific focus, and also rewording the ordinance change in a way where you establish and give me administration something to work with, possibly do it in 2 steps and break out and say it like it is. We're going to do 200. We're considering quadrupling what's been a standard practice for 30 years because of these reasons. And you break it, and that way it's presented in a manner that actually attracts and brings in potential interest from your neighbors. So those are some ways you can do it. District meetings also, with a focus like that, are ways to also communicate. So.
Sure. Yeah. Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Vice President Chamberlain.
Thank you, Councilmember Dennehy. Next up, Councilmember Mockler.
Thanks, Vice President Chamberlain. I'd like to begin with congratulating Councillor Coughlin on his masterly summing up of meetings, many of which I watched. And there have been numerous public hearings on this. It's not just the mayor's call for a noise ordinance that impelled us to pass this noise ordinance unanimously. It was also comments we were getting from constituents. There's nothing I can do about X. There's parties here. There's nothing I can do about it. The Bremerton Police Department had no noise ordinance to enforce. And therefore, I think it's really important that we pass this noise ordinance this evening. Vice President Chamberlain, I'd like to ask the mayor about one comment that he made. That okay by you?
Sure. Let's
Okay.
make sure though that we try to
So-
keep your comments, Mayor
Yeah.
Wheeler, to under 5 minutes.
It's a single question. I am well defined, I hope. In your initial statement, Mayor, you said that your administration could not support this noise ordinance. You just mean that philosophically you cannot support it. Of course, the police department will be enforcing it
That's right.
once it is passed. Yes?
We will,
Yes?
if there's a yes or no, and we can, but if you would like, I can kind of give you a little more what it might be like to enforce 200 feet versus 50, but maybe we just hold off on that.
I would like to hold off on it for now, with your permission. And I know you for a ready and articulate speaker. For me, I think the considerations of the people who want to sleep peacefully away from commercial music venues, this is specifically commercial music venues that are called out. It's not like the tire repair shop or a car wash or anything else. It's just for commercial venues. And having been married to a musician for many years, I have to say, I think it's unlikely that a live music venue is going to suddenly splash out into wealth with an extra hour on Friday and Saturday nights. So I think this is a good noise ordinance, and I hope that as an addendum to tonight's discussion, that legal could give us a run through of how this ordinance could be amended without suspending it. So if at some future point we want to amend it, we would know exactly what the process is. And I apologize to Attorney Fennell, Michael Rea, everybody, because I know you have explained this to us already. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mockler. I see Councilmember Coughlin, you have your hand up. And Mayor Wheeler, I see that you have your hand up, but you've also made a few comments. So I'm going to go ahead and go back around to Councilmember Coughlin.
Yep, I lowered it.
Sure, thank you.
Vice President Chamberlain, I see President Goodnow's hand up. I think he's raising it to speak, but I can't tell. I don't know if he's still having IT issues.
And I do not see the hand up. Is it in the?
No, it was my actual hand. I'm on my phone here because my internet is horrible and it's chronic, and it makes me upset that we're going to be looking at their contract and I can't conduct a meeting. So if I can just say that what we have in front of us is we have motions prepared to stay the course and approve the ordinance that we have already unanimously approved. And we have a motion ready that takes the mayor's requests and tweaks the approved, the one, it just removes the 200 foot, but it brings it to 100. So it's still doubling it, but it's not quadrupling it. And so anyways, the real discussion almost needs to be which motion we want to move forward with. I guess a third option is we go back to study sessions and we go back and maybe start again. But I think that we need to decide really where we're at, and I want us to, I want us to approve something tonight, and I think that we need to, choose which motion we move forward with. So.
Thank you, President Goodnow. And I'm not sure where you left off with technical issues, but we do have a motion on the floor. Ms. Hoover, can you read the motion that we have on the floor that was seconded that we're discussing right now?
Yes, I will. Move to approve ordinance number 5453, amending chapter 6.32 of the Bremerton Municipal Code entitled Noise Levels that was previously passed by City Council on August 3rd, 2022, and subsequently vetoed by Mayor Wheeler.
And so I don't believe we have any amendments, friendly amendments. I don't believe we have anybody who has made an additional motion at this time. So Councilmember Coughlin, I think you were next. Thank you for deferring to President Goodnow.
No, thanks, Vice President. It's always challenging with the IT issues. All good. Yeah, just a few quick comments addressing some other concerns. Councilmember Mockler, Nicole, thanks for the kudos. And I want to say, as I was reading through a bunch of past meeting minutes, I noticed you speaking up as a member of the public. So thank you for doing that back then and for being so involved for so long. I do want to clarify again, just for any members of the public listening, the exemption at hand is just Friday and Saturday, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. to allow that little extra noise buffer, just Friday, Saturday, 3 to 11 p.m. I mentioned Quincy Square as an example, not relating specifically to this noise ordinance, just as an example of embracing, live music in the city. Just it has a rich history. I've known people that have been going to live music for 20 plus years here all around the city. We have many live music venues. So that's why I mentioned Quincy Square, just an example, not specific relation to the noise ordinance. The question, Mayor Wheeler, you mentioned sending out mailers. Yes or no, did your administration send out a mailer to residents in the city for your proposal of your proposed noise ordinance that first came before us?
No, and the reason is our comparisons that I gave you, and then we did the research for you. There was a range from 50 feet, which is the low end, to 100 feet, which is the high end. So we're within the normal. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, so it doubled it. There was a change, but no mailers went out for that change either. I don't want to reiterate right now. We have infinity feet. There's nothing on the ordinance. It's been 2.5 years. And I'm going to echo, I think it was Councilmember Mockler about commercial venues. They're not all going to pop up overnight. It's not like we pass this and all of a sudden billions of dollars get invested in the city in the next year. It's if something pops up and there's an issue, we can address it. We can amend this down the road. Again, I appreciate the concerns. We don't want to let 20 years go by before we look at it again, but we can adapt as needed. So I wanted to put that out there. Thanks, councilors.
Thank you, Councilmember Coughlin. Councilmember Dennehy.
Thank you, Vice President Chamberlain. I think I just want to state where I'm at right now. I think that I am going to actually defer, even though I am Vice Chair of the Public Safety Committee and was involved in this. I think I am going to defer to the mayor and his years of wisdom, his time on council, his 2 terms as the chief enforcer of the city. I am very reticent to put into policy things that might have unintended consequences. Again, harkening back to the MFTE. So I really do appreciate some research that went into this. I can see both sides, but at this point, I do think it might be prudent to listen to the mayor and his years of experience. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Councilmember Dennehy. Is there anyone else on council who would like to comment on this issue? Just gonna go through, double check. Anybody else on council? Okay. And so, seeing no further discussion, I call for the question.
Councilmember Coughlin.
Yes.
Dennehy.
No.
Mockler.
Yes.
Younger.
Yes.
Chamberlain.
Yes.
Fry.
Yes.
Goodnow.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 6 yeses, 1 no.
All right. I think I've got it from
Right
here.
ahead. I'm going to defer it to President Goodnow, who's back on the scene. Thank you.
Well, we'll see. All right. So that closes general business. Up next is